Boost has been around for 8 years. We have, I think, 4 locations. There's Westminster, we have DTC right here. There's San Diego, and we're volunteering. So it's growing, changing, and always something new and exciting happening. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd love to go around and just hear from you, do quick introductions. Just tell us your name.
For every single thing, every 20 years, there's a new generation, which I thought it was 30 years. Brooke always enlightens me, and I'm glad to see that he survived Everest. He's back. I just want to hear what he has to say about his experiences.
Yeah. And oh, you guys.
You want me? Yeah. I'm excited.
All right.
I'm just.
What's your name?
Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Dan Stratford. I'm not a videographer, but it looks like I am.
I'm just playing one today.
Yeah, just playing one today, exactly. But yeah, looking forward to the presentation. I'm excited. So.
Hey, Tony Downs Photography. Here shooting photos, and I'm excited to hear about Everest.
I'm Kate Haggerty. My company is Sole Purpose, and I specialize in helping professional women that have reached a spot in their career where they know they're not doing what they came here to do. They know they're not aligned with their purpose, they don't know how to figure it out or where to start, and that's what I help them to do so that they can align their life with their true calling.
Tim Schrindel, small business owner, everything from web hosting, real estate, also floor plans for barn homes, couple patents, basically into a lot of different things. Marketing is a big thing I pay attention to a lot now. So I know Brooke from Toastmasters from years ago. I want to hear the full-blown speech.
Okay.
Wow.
Dan, we good?
We are.
Audio?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Well, now to introduce our speaker. Today, Brooke Chesnut of Brooke Chesnut Incorporated presents lessons from Mount Everest. Brooke Chesnut has dedicated 30 years to building successful leadership, training, consulting, and mentoring programs for multiple industries in Colorado. He is a generational expert who designs custom programs to guide small and large organizations through the challenging generational issues that exist in business today. Recently, Brooke became an adjunct professor at the Daniel School of Business at University of Denver, presenting generational leadership workshops to their corporate clients and MBA graduates. Brooke's passion about delivering only current and relevant content is the essence of his success. His latest topic, The New Face of Business, will keep audiences engaged with creative ideas, current examples, humor, and solution-based results. With rousing applause, please help me welcome Brooke Chesnut.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for being here. We have a very intimate group today, and so what I would like to suggest is let's have this be an interactive session. As I go through these entrepreneurial lessons that I have learned from Everest that I want to translate and transform back to the business world, if you see something that you have a question on or a story or a comment, please raise your hand. We'll bring it to the floor. That way we can all learn together. How does that sound? Good? Okay, so don't be bashful. When you go on an expedition to Mount Everest, it is not about the destination. It is all about the journey. So I'd like to know, by a show of hands, how many of you are currently on a journey? Fair enough? And they could be in all shapes, sizes, forms, whatever. But we're all on a journey. And what I want to share with you today is the journey that I have been on for 33 years. And that's what this is about, and how I got to this point to describe to you what happened just this year when I went on the 2018 Everest expedition. But in 1985, I started climbing all the 14ers in Colorado. This one here looks familiar, right? You know which one that one is? Capitol Peak with the knife edge. And then this is part of the San Juans. That is Crestone Needle. But basically, over the last 30 years, I've been able to climb all of the 14ers, which is where I just kind of got the mojo and the enthusiasm for climbing mountains. And then, in 1999, I planned a trip to go to Africa with my wife at the time, and we were going to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And we went there with 3 other couples. And the whole point of this was to experience Africa, climb the mountain, do safari, just enjoy everything there is about this country. And we summited Kilimanjaro, and we're walking down, and we're all in a great mood, everyone's happy, and a seed had been planted here a long time ago when I read a book called The 7 Summits. You all know what the 7 summits are?
The tallest peak on each continent.
The tallest peak on every continent on the planet. And we're walking down from Kilimanjaro, and I looked to my friends and their wives, and I said, guys, we just climbed one of the 7 summits. Would you like to do the other 6? And what do you think they said?
You're crazy.
They said, yeah, let's do that. Honey, can I get approval? And the ladies were on board. So in 2001, we did Kilimanjaro. Then we went to South America to do Aconcagua. Then we went up to Denali, the highest peak in North America. Then we went over to Russia to do Elbrus. And then in 2016, we went to Antarctica to do Vinson Massif. 5 of the world's 7 summits, all done successfully on the first attempt, all without oxygen. So when I came home in January of 2016, it only made perfect sense that we would go and do Mount Everest. And I committed in 2016 to join the 2018 Everest expedition. 2 years to prepare for this event, to climb the highest peak in the world. It was just going to be our 6th summit. And then after that, we were going to go to Kosciuszko in Australia, which is like doing Lookout Mountain with a 12-pack of Foster's Lager. It's that easy, okay? If any of these are easy. So that's how we got to the Everest point. And so 2 years, it was March of this year, March 22nd, I was at a Cherry Creek Toastmasters meeting. And I was sent off in a rousing, glowing, wonderful, supportive group, fully expecting to summit that mountain and come back and tell the story. And that is what I'm here today to tell you about. This is a picture of the 15 people from around the world who signed up for what I signed up for. And that is to go to the top of Mount Everest and back down to Camp 4 with a Sherpa. 13 men, 2 women, all from different generations. Our youngest was Rahul from India, 24 years old. There was a slew of 30-year-olds, a bunch of 40-year-olds. One gentleman was 55 years old, and 2 gentlemen were 60 years old. And I was one of them. That's George, and that's me. But this whole group, this picture was taken on the 6th day of our expedition. Our expedition is going to be for 10 weeks. Okay? So this is day number 6, and we had this photo because we got Ama Dablam, Lhotse, the 4th highest mountain in the world, and that right there is Everest summit with the snow being blown off because the jet stream at 200 miles an hour is piercing the top of that peak. How are we doing? Make sense? And I'm trying to, we got 6 days, we're getting our picture taken, but we're on our way to base camp. It takes 10 to 12 days just to get to base camp. So we're only halfway there. And we have this photo. I'm trying to connect, with all the different climbers, Spain, Canada, France, Austria, the United Kingdom, a bunch of people from the US. And we leave, and the guides from our expedition team, International Mountain Guides, IMG, they say to us on the next day, hey, everybody, you see that mountain there? 20,000 feet? We'd like to evaluate your skills. So we're going to go climb that mountain and test your ice axe, crampons, harnesses, just to see how you do. And we're days away from base camp, and I've never, on the 5 other mountains, been evaluated before by guides. I'm thinking, okay, sure. So we camp down here. We got to get up at 3 in the morning and filter our way through here to this point right there. And from there, you go straight up this glaciated slope to the summit, just over 20,000 feet. 7 days into this expedition. And at the top of that, my friend Chris right here, he's a young 27, 28-year-old from Australia. He's never climbed before. He asked me to kind of assist him and guide him and help him and mentor him on this trip because Chris was not going to the summit. Chris was just going to base camp, and he wanted to try this. Well, if you notice, look at the guys behind us. Chris and I were the last 2 climbers to get to the top. And I could tell from the body language and the lack of communication and eye contact that these guys are just kind of going, oh man, we're going to be stuck here with, the young guy and grandpa, the old codger, because they're so slow. And again, we were the last persons there, and they didn't really want to talk to us because these young guys, as you might imagine, want to kind of show off how strong, how capable, how amazing they are 7 days into a 10-week expedition. I didn't say a thing. I felt fine. Chris and I are happy. He's happy, right? Everything's good. Well, we finished that. And I noticed that some of the climbers in that picture of 15, 4 of them didn't even attempt to do that climb. And all those people had to submit a resume, an application, doctor's report, everything. They have incredible resumes, and 4 of them didn't even attempt it. And we all paid a heck of a lot of money to be standing on that mountain. So I started to think about what 3 things helped me be really successful on Everest, and how those 3 things could be transmitted or transformed into the business world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive leader, small business owner, whatever it might be. Okay? And the first thing that I wanted to share was the word acclimate or acclimatization. That is probably one of the most grateful things they did for us to be successful on Everest. When you acclimatize, you familiarize yourself with different surroundings. Whether you're in a networking group, a leadership group, or a mastermind, acclimatizing was key for us. The second thing was I was going to build community. And the community I was going to build it with was those guys in the team that were kind of disregarding me, and also the Sherpa. And then the last thing was use their expertise, and I listened to the Sherpa, and I asked a lot of questions. and I will show you and tell you what happened. But those three things in succession was the key to my success. Here is a map that when we're on the mountain, we never saw. There's no maps in Nepal. But basically, after we left that rotation, we were trying to get to base camp. And base camp is just over 17,000 feet. And we're going to be there for 65 days as our base camp, as our new home. But what they've done is they have positioned Camp 1, 2, 3, and 4 at specific elevations so that we can be put into a position to succeed as we acclimate. So, this acclimatization process, I use the mountain as a metaphor for business, because so many entrepreneurs want to race from here and just keep going as fast as they can to here. And they become overwhelmed and they become overburdened. And my point to them, as they did with us, is you only take tiny steps and then go back down. And then tiny steps and come back down. And that's what we did for 4 weeks. And I'll show you how we did that. Here's a picture of base camp. It's like 2 different parts of the world. We have this part over here, which is filled with solid ice pinnacles, hardly usable. But then from here over, it's solid ice covered with dirt, rock, lava, pumice. And that's where we stayed in these tents for 65 days. Ate our meals here. Bathrooms are here. And the showers are right there. It's like home. Right? 3 meals a day. Getting in and out of your tent on a pad this thick for over 2 months. We having any fun yet?
Looked like home to me, by the way.
It's home. This was home. This is where we are acclimating. This is where we're adapting to a whole new elevation. We're at 18,000 feet. And we're going to be there for a long time. So, this base camp here is key for us. And we're going to stay there for 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 days before we even step foot on this mountain. And what happens is we get a chance to build community. And this was probably the happiest thing for me. That is my daughter, who came with me as a trekker and trekked to base camp. She's my oldest daughter, Allie. We shared a tent, and she taught me how to take my photographs and then post them on Facebook. It was like a dual mentorship made in heaven. My daughter is showing me how to do that so I could post what was happening on Facebook after she left. Because she left after 3 weeks. But beyond that, the biggest, most powerful, the most important day of all is this day, right here. This is the Sherpa having a huge ceremony where the Lama, this guy right here, asks the mountain for permission to summit. And if we do, will you protect us? The Sherpa and the climbers, will you protect us from being harmed? And this goes on for 3, 4, 5 hours. Okay? Incense, tea, they're throwing rice. They're all, with their red coats on. Those are all the Sherpa. And they hoist the flags. And the Sherpa are extremely spiritual. This is the most important day for them. Because if it happens and it goes well, they know they'll be safe up on Everest. So then they break into this group. They lock arms with all of us. We're all kind of interspersed here. There's my daughter, Allie. And they start dancing. They're dancing. And drinking tea and chanting and all this stuff. And I'm just going, oh my God. So I'm just taking videos. I'm standing back, taking it all in. But when it ended, the leader of our group, Greg, calls my name, makes me go out to the middle, right here, and he pairs me with my Sherpa. And his name is Tunong, 35 years old, 2 children, summited Everest twice, and he's a millennial. Okay? You can tell by the selfie that he always wants to take with his cell phone. And this young man is so humble, gracious, soft-spoken, but he has connected with me to do one thing, to get me from Camp 4 to the summit and back safely. That's his only job. Yet we're being introduced almost 7 weeks before we even get there. Why would they do that?
Build the relationship.
I call it building community, but that's exactly right. He and I became really, really close, which was awesome. And all those other climbers I showed you the picture of in the group, they each had their own Sherpa. But the guys that were really fast and strong, guess what kind of Sherpas they got? Fast and strong Sherpas. So they could all be together. And sure enough, Tunong and I, his job is to do this part right here. Yet we're going to be together for almost 6 weeks, going up and down this mountain together. Okay? Well, I've been doing this a while. Okay? I'm almost twice his age. Yet he decides to have a clinic with me, and I am listening more than I ever have because he taught me how to pack my pack, how to lace up my crampons efficiently, how to attach my harness, and then he says, we're not going to be drinking water or Gatorade. You're going to have green Nepalese tea because it will hydrate you, cleanse you, and fill your soul with confidence. I'm listening to this guy because he is telling me things I'd never even dreamed of. Then, after that, we go in our guides here in the red up here, start doing these clinics at base camp going up and down sheer ice cliff walls at base camp, just practicing rotations with ropes. And I'm asking questions like, can't we hike like we do a 14er or like I did on Denali or Elbrus? And the guys just, they roll their eyes back in their head like going, oh God, we're stuck with this old codger again. And they said, no, you're going to be hanging from ropes. And I didn't know what that meant, but we still hadn't stepped foot on the mountain. But I'm asking a lot of questions. So the 3 things that I want you to remember was the acclimatization at base camp, the building of the community with my Sherpa and my team, and then asking and listening quite a bit. Okay? Well, now it's time to climb. You all know what the Khumbu Icefall is? Nope. Dan and I were just sharing a story. It is the most dangerous part of this journey. The most dangerous. Here's the reason why. In 2014, this red line was the actual route, and an earthquake broke free, and all these ice pieces the size of this room came down and crushed and killed 16 Sherpa who were trying to build the route for the climbing season that year. That season was canceled, and Dan and I were just talking about someone who rescued people, and now this new climb, this new area comes up through here, but you have to leave at 2:30, 3 in the morning while it's pitch black, headlamp on, footsteps in front of you, because you need to get through here in the next 8 hours before the sun comes up, because if the sun heats up the ice and then it shifts, it will crush anything in its path. And that's what happens. So you've got to get through there in a certain amount of time. Y'all with me? Here we go. So I start off with walls of ice, and you can see right here, you see that mountain right there? Remember this, it's Mount Pumori, 24,000 feet, looms way up above base camp. But as daylight started to come, and more daylight, I'm starting to look around, and we're surrounded by huge seracs of ice and snow. And we have to maneuver through these amazing tunnels and ladders. And then we get to the crevasses. And they actually take aluminum ladders and they put duct tape around them to attach them to each other. And there's 5 duct taped ladders there. And on each side of the ladder, you can see they have these ropes in the hands of the climbers. So you've got some rope here, and then you have to step on those rungs with your crampons. And the ladders are kind of sagging a little bit. You're roped in, but then in the middle, when you look down, you cannot see the bottom.
So those ladders are duct taped together?
They are duct taped right there, right there. Yeah, they're duct taped. That's all they got is duct tape. There's a Hugh M. Woods, there's a Home Depot right there at base camp. It's amazing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But that's why the ice fall is by far the most dangerous. You're under time pressure. You've got huge crevasses. You've got to navigate these. Some are, that's probably one of the biggest, but they've got some smaller ones, ladders, you know, and you're just getting started. This is just the beginning of this acclimatization process. But once you get through the whole thing, I got a picture. Notice how I'm still in the shade? And my Sherpa was so proud of me because I made it. What do you notice in the picture? Anything?
Got a rope.
I'm roped. There's Pumori right there. There's nobody else with me. There's no one else with me. In other words, guess who was the last person to get through the icefall? Yeah. It was me. I mean, I'm not feeling bad. I'm just going a little slower than these other fellers are. And I get to Camp 1, and they're all in their tents, okay? The Sherpa are here in their tent, and you get to Camp 1, I had to walk all the way down to the last tent, go inside, no one says a word. And you sit in the tent, take off all your stuff, and you sit in the tent all day. The sun is beating down at 19,500 feet. Hotter than hell. There's no bathrooms. There's no dining tent. There's no showers. You get your meal in a little bag called an MRE, Meals Ready to Eat. And then we spend the entire night there, wake up the next day, and go back down the icefall. Spend 2 days at base camp. Come back up the icefall to Camp 1. Because now we're doing our second rotation and we're going to go to Camp 2. And you can kind of see here how it's gotten a lot nicer. A little bit flatter, some negotiation of some stuff. But right here is Lhotse. Camp 3 is up here. And that right there is top of the world. It almost looks really close, doesn't it? It is miles and miles away because it is so flippin' big. It's huge. But I'm excited to get through the icefall, get away from Camp 1, go to Camp 2 because it looks really doable. You can see all the climbers walking along, and then we hit these things. 3 100 to 150 foot cliffs of ice with 5 ropes, 2 ladders, multi-international teams. No one speaks English. It is a huge cluster event of trying to get, my Sherpas trying to get me, my pack, up this thing. and people are coming down, people are trying to go up. It was very challenging. We haven't any fun yet. So we had to do this 3 times, but once you get up there on the last one, then the whole valley opens up. And notice here, you've got this beautiful paved path. There's Mount Pumori. It's about 37 degrees, no wind, beautiful sun. I'm feeling great. But do you notice anything in the picture?
You don't see any other people.
Yeah.
Your last one.
There's no other people behind me, and my Sherpa has had it. He takes my stuff, takes a picture, and says, I'll see you at camp, because going to Camp 2 is a lot easier than going through the icefall. And he left me and just let me walk by myself. Yeah. He was kind of disappointed that he had been stuck with the old guy. Then I find out, before I get to Camp 2, that the young guys were so proud of themselves. There were 4 of them from different countries that were all 49 years of age. And they decided to form a club called the 49er Club. I was not invited to join. That's how close they were getting as a community. But I was feeling pushed out, but I'm also the slowest. So, that picture of me was taken at about right there. So we're in the middle of the Western Coombe. We're about halfway up to Camp 4. I get to Camp 2. No one wants to say anything. No conversations, no how you doing, how you feeling. And I asked the guides, am I going to be okay here? Am I doing okay? And they said, yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're fine. The guides were great. So what do? Spend the night, come back down to Camp 1, spend the night, go down to base camp, spend 2 nights, go back up to Camp 1, spend the night, and then go back up to Camp 2. Again, the whole month of April, this is all we're doing. Every single day. That's what we signed up for. Okay? So Camp 2 is at 21,500 feet. Now we're going to Camp 3. And Camp 3, on the Lhotse face, is at 25,000 feet. And we wake up again at 2:30 in the morning. Notice all the climbers, very, very quiet. They all have their down suits on. We got to wear our down suits because it's going to be a lot colder going to 25,000 feet at 2 and 3:30 in the morning. So we have our breakfast. We get out of the tent, and I pulled Tunong aside. And I said to him, Tunong, today is going to be my day, I think. What do you mean? What do you mean? I said, well, on the other mountains that I climbed around the world, when I got above 21,000 feet, for whatever reason, I felt really strong. And he just rolls his eyes back in his head like, dude, we'll be lucky to even make it the way you go, because we're going up the much steeper, more difficult pitch. And so we all line up. There's Raul from India, and all the guys, we're all lined up, getting ready with our rope. We're all roped together with our Sherpas, and we start off. And we're going straight up a wall of ice with crampons. He's got my, this is Tunong, he's got my water, he's got my sleeping bag, and he's got my pad. I'm not carrying much weight. He's carrying most of it because he's praying that I'm going to make it. And then we're into this climb for 4 hours on this cliff, on this steep slope, and he stops. And he turns around and he has this huge smile on his face. I go, what? Turn around. I turn around and he takes a picture. And the 49er Club and all those younger guys are suffering. They can't breathe. Some of them are very nauseous. They have headaches. They've got cramps. They are really suffering. And I just had to say, I told you so. I didn't say a word, but I just kept motoring up to camp number 3. 8 hours in, I get there. He gives me my sleeping bag. I give him a thumbs up, and guess who's there to greet me? 3rd climber out of 12. Raul, the young Indian guy, strong as hell. And he's in shock. He's in shock that I am there before all these other guys. And he invites me to be his tent mate that night. And he goes, Brooke, oh my God, you crushed it. Oh my, how did you do that? On and on and on. So we're sleeping in this tent. It was a miserable, miserable experience at 25,000 feet, sleeping in your down suit, in your bag. But I could hear all the other guys coming in, sick, suffering, can't breathe, headaches, you name it. They were not good. Horrible night. Wake up the next day, and we're on this cliff, if you will. We're all here, and I look up, and I go, oh my God, there's the Geneva Spur, there's camp number 4, and that is the top of the world. It's like, holy crap, I can taste it. I can see it, I can feel it. I said to the guides, why don't we just do this now? What do you think they said?
You need acclimate.
Dude. You know, dude. No, Brooke. It's not how it works. You made it to Camp 3. Great job, everybody. Even the guys that were suffering, they got a great attaboy. But we're going to go down to Camp 2, spend the night. Down to Camp 1, spend the night. Down to base camp and spend 5 nights. And then we will go to the summit. Yes. So we're getting ready to go, and there's not much room because you got a cliff and a little platform. There's not much room to maneuver, and all the guys and Sherpa are over here. I'm way over here, and I can't get my crampons to work. My Sherpa can't help me. So I just really fast take off a glove, pull on this crampon, put it back on, take off this glove, pull on that one, put it back on. Everything's fine. And I turn around and I take a picture from 25,000 feet on the Lhotse face showing the valley here. Camp 2 is here. Camp 1 is there. The Everest Base Camp's way down here behind this, and that is Pumori. And if we had a big enough screen, the summit of Everest is way over here. It's so flippin' big. And so, we start off coming down from Camp 3 all the way down to Camp 2, basically rappelling straight down the ice sheet. And I get to Camp 2, and the guides pull me aside. And they say, Brooke, can you room with this young guy named Eric from Chicago? 36-year-old guy, strong climber. Can you room with him? Because he really suffered, and we'd like for you to maybe coach him, motivate him, help him. I said, sure, no problem. And when I got into the tent with Eric, Eric says, Brooke, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to do this. I felt so horrible up there. I have a big favor to ask of you. I promised my friends, my family, my associates in Chicago that I would hold up this white sheet with a big W on it, which means Cubs win. And he was so upset that he was not going to make it. He said, would you take this to the summit, Brooke, and then take a picture so that I can show it to my friends and my associates? Because it meant the world to him. If you're from Chicago.
That's why I laughed. I lived there 16 years. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. If you're from Chicago, people in the audience go, oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Eric was devastated. And I said, dude, you're going to be fine. We got a rest here. We got 5 days at base camp. You're going to be fine. He says, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to make it. It can work. All right, well, whatever. Spent the night there. Came down to Camp 1. Spent the night there. Somewhere in here, Eric talked to the guides, and they convinced him to stay. So Eric stayed. I didn't know it at the time. And then we wake up from here, and then we had some breakfast, whatever, it's horrible. And then we come down the ice fall, and about right here in the ice fall, I'm getting hungry, so I sit down with my Sherpa. We're all, trolling into base camp. I take off my gloves to get a bar and a drink, and I look down, and the very tips of my pinkies had turned black. And I go like this, and they're like pieces of wood. And I go, that's weird, They still work. I have no pain. I've never had frostbite before. That's really weird. I go, hey, Sherpa, check this out. What's going on? He doesn't say a word. Nothing. I could tell that was not a good sign. But I blew it off. I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. Come on. We're going to be fine. Tell you what we should do. We'll get down to base camp, and instead of going to my tent to rest, let's go to the doctor, the MASH unit tent, where they have 3 doctors on call for 10 weeks to take care of things like this. I'll be good as new. And the Sherpa goes, okay, yeah, sure, okay. So sure enough, we get down to base camp. There's the MASH tent, and I'm greeted at the door by the volunteer doctor from India. What a wonderful, soft-spoken, amazing man, volunteering for 10 weeks to help people on Everest. I take off my gloves. I show him my fingers, like I'm not even thinking about it. I say, dude, I don't know, something's wrong. Can you help me? In less than 10 seconds, he looks me in the eye and he says, you must leave the mountain right now. What? What are you talking about, dude? Look, my fingers are fine. They don't hurt. Just fix them. He goes, no, you must leave immediately. I go, who the are you? And I lost it. Blew up. Calling him every name in the book, effing this, effing that, swearing my eyes out, in a fit of rage, in front of his staff, in front of my Sherpa, just cussing this guy out. I said, this isn't going to happen. I was so angry. And he goes, oh, no, wait. And he has a guy come over with a photograph from last year of a gentleman that had the same thing as me. In the photograph, he had lost all 4 of those fingers and all 3 of those because he did not leave the mountain. That was the moment that I knew this dream is over. And then I asked the audience, have you ever experienced a time when you were crushed in the business world? Because I went from this fit of rage into a sobbing ball of messiness. I was crushed. I was devastated, and I'm crying my eyes out, and I'm trying to be consoled by my Sherpa. And then the doctor says, Brooke, we need your credit card, please. I go, oh, what the hell are you talking about? No, we need to charter you a helicopter that will take you from base camp and fly you almost an hour and 20 minutes to a hospital in Kathmandu. We can't work on you here. You need to go there and have an ER doc basically wrap your fingers. And there I am, less than 3 hours. I am off that mountain. And the doctors in the hospital gave me the worst news ever. They said I had to stay in Kathmandu for 4 days. and come back to the ER unit every day to get rebandaged so they could check that my frostbite was not going to be infected or I was in danger of losing some of my digits. So I had to go back to this hotel room. No internet, no cell phone, nobody speaks English. All my stuff is strewn about in my room, and I am lying on my bed in a fetal position with those bandages, crying my eyes out, a broken man. Psychological mess. It was by far the worst time in my life because I knew I was not going to accomplish my goal. But the longer I stayed there in that fetal, crushed position, I realized that I had learned a valuable lesson. And that lesson is that sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And it's from John Maxwell. And I had learned that you don't take off your gloves at 25,000 feet. But more importantly, I learned that I had to get off of that mountain ASAP. As hard as it was for me to do that, I looked down at my fingers and, they were still there. And I still had them. And I knew I could go home and hold the book for my granddaughter and embrace both my daughters with all of my digits. And so I got up, I took a shower, shaved, got dressed, went out into Kathmandu to build community, and I found a pub. And I've still got bandaged hands. I'm in this pub drinking beer and having pizza, and all these people are asking me, dude, what's with the bandages, man? What's going on? And I tell them the story. And they just start, she brings all these people over, I'm telling the story, they're all amazed. Oh my God, you're going to be okay, aren't you? I said, I think so, I'm going to be okay. And I felt so much better, but I did not want to come home and see anybody. For weeks, nobody. So after that, I learned that in business, in life, in all the things that we do, that success is never final. But failure is not fatal. And when I was lying in that bed, I felt like such a failure, loser, inadequate, you name it. And it's the courage to continue that really counts. So then, there I am at the base camp, doctor's tent, with my little bandages on, because that's all they could do. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think I'm going to be okay. I wasn't sure. I was still a psychological mess. But do you think I was successful?
So wait, you went back to base camp?
I didn't go back to base camp. That picture was taken at base camp. But my question is, was I successful on Everest?
Successes. You had to learn.
I had to learn something, but in my heart, hell no, I was not successful. But by making the most difficult decision ever, I got to save my digits, and to bring this full circle, I get to answer that question. What's next? And in 2019, April of next year, I'm going to Australia with a 12-pack of Foster's Lager to go up Kosciuszko with my girlfriend Katie, because I want her to be a part of this as my 6th summit of the world. And then in 2020, I am going back to Mount Everest for one more try. By the way, we're almost done. I had to show this to you. There's my buddy Eric. He was here 2 weeks ago at a concert at Red Rocks, and we reminisced, and he told me, I did not know this, But I had left so fast from the mountain, I never got to say goodbye to all those guys that had finally embraced me. And Eric said, Brooke, when you left, there was this huge hole on the team. We didn't communicate well. We didn't have your energy. We didn't have your gift, whatever that was. And that meant a lot to me, although I didn't find out for 3 or 4 months. And they continue to message me. But there he is with his Sherpa on the summit with his Cubs flag. And that is my story. If you know of organizations or associations that could benefit from a story like that, I've got some handouts and cards over here. And you know my contact information.
I'm stuck.
Questions? Discussion? Come on.
I've got plenty. It's a whole podcast, but we can start with some. What were you feeling physically? Like, were you sore at different times? Was it right away? Was it only certain times?
I felt great. They acclimatize you so well that they put you in a great position to succeed. And I felt great.
Whatever it is, also, is you going slower at first makes a lot more sense than being the racer.
Yep.
I see that.
That's something to learn. I learned that.
I see that here in 14 years. I have friends that race up them and then
Yeah,
barely make it down.
they pay. Yeah. Dan.
So, just distract me. I'll come back to me here in a second. Oh, dang it, I thought this was a question. I know.
So do you think the fact that you did all the 14ers, that you lived at this elevation actually helped you once you got, they hadn't been in that environment, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So once you got like the third part of it, it's like, okay, now all of a sudden they're all sick and everything. Because what you're describing is altitude sickness, pretty much, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
And the fact that you've lived here and done all this stuff, that it actually gave you a leg up later on in the climb.
But these guys were all experienced. They've done all those peaks I had. They, were successful. They were much younger than me. But Everest wears you down. It's such a long time. Your body gets depleted. And when I was on Aconcagua or Denali, for some reason, man, I was just ahead of everybody. And it was just weird. And I knew it was going to happen. But
Almost like a genetic predisposition to...
I don't know what it is. I'm riding my bike at, Rocky Mountain National Park over Trail Ridge Road. And all these guys that used to be ahead of me, I was ahead of them. And I feel better. I don't know. It's weird. But you're right, Jerry.
Remember my question. So you took your gloves off to fix your boots. How should you have fixed them? Like, what was the other alternative?
Yeah, you can't. What I did is I flash froze the capillaries and the tissue on the edge of them. Okay, well, nothing really happens, but 2 days later is when it sets in. And what happens is if you stay at elevation, it progresses so fast that each digit will start to self-amputate. And the guy with the picture was so, here, I'm not leaving, lost his fingers. I don't know if he summited it or not, but he didn't care. Yeah,
But you
I know.
understand that because you
Oh, I knew I could not come home without my fingers. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
You fix your boots.
Yeah,
Very
because that's
specific
the
question.
damage.
Boots. What was your alternative to fix your boots?
I had to keep my gloves on and try to do something with them, or try to shimmy over to get to my Sherpa to do it for me.
Yeah.
And it was such a fast thing. It wasn't, Denali to me is way colder than Everest. Way colder. But the elevation, the lack of oxygen is what happened. And I went to Boulder Orthopedics, talked to a hand surgeon, told him what happened. He says, that doctor, that Indian doctor that got you out of base camp like that, saved your butt. And I go, oh. So I sent him a check for $100 to the Himalayan Rescue Fund. to thank him because he was the guy that saved my fingers.
Yeah, $100 yeah.
And I go, man, that poor guy.
And I want to take credit for preparing that guy for your swearing at him, because I probably swore at him if he was a Verizon customer service rep. It was in India, right? But I mean, the fact that he had the grace not to kick you out of there. when you
Yeah,
got-
no,
Yeah,
he was
take him out of
he
there.
was classy as all get out. But I mean, but I was sobbing. I was bad. It was bad. And then I got to clear out my stuff, get in a duffel bag, shove it in there, get on a helicopter, pay all this money, $5,000 just to get out of there, by myself. Pilot didn't say a word to me. Not a word. Yeah, it was
Do they have rules?
devastating.
You don't ever take your gloves off? Do they give you some,
They never said anything about that. Never said that. Nope.
no heaters for the gloves?
Oh no, well, yeah, I'm getting. I got all kinds of options now. So I'm going to test my gloves, my hands this winter skiing. I'm not going back up until 2020, and I'll get some battery-operated gloves. I have battery-operated socks. Socks were great.
Did you have any of those there, though? Did you have those little heaters or anything?
No, nope, nope.
Vitamins, supplements? Do you bring your own? Do they
Yeah,
supply
a
any?
little bit, yeah, a little bit.
It's
But
almost
it wasn't that you weren't physically able to do it. I mean, it was just that your fingers were going to
Yeah,
fall out.
yeah. I mean, they kicked me off the mountain. You have to go.
Had fallen off. I mean, you wouldn't have been able to climb.
No,
Just with, that one guy just has a thumb and that's it on.
that's it. Yeah, he lost all those. Yeah. So I cannot ride my bike in the morning without down mittens. Can't. Tissues hurt. Can't put my hand into an ice tray for cubes because the tips are still so sensitive. And they have there's no cure. You never know. It's just going to take months to get it back.
So the fingertips turned black, but your whole hand was frostbitten.
No, it was the tips.
Oh, the tips of all fingers?
No, just the pinkies. But the next ones were my ring fingers. And I lost the fingernails on both pinkies and ring fingers after a while.
But they weren't black.
They weren't black, but I could tell they were damaged. The pinkies were going to go, for sure.
When they flash froze, everything expanded. All your cells expanded.
Yep.
And it shrunk back down, so that had...
Right, and then I got huge blisters, and I could see that this is not good, and I had to wear these bandages, and so I'm on this flight home with
You
these.
never had frostbite.
Never,
Right, yeah.
never.
How cold was it, do you think, when you took it off?
Oh, I don't know, 0, 10 below.
But there was wind like crazy?
No, it wasn't that
Oh,
bad.
you also touched, do you touch metal?
Mm-hmm.
Metal transfers heat.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Denali, much colder. 45 below zero, 70 mile an hour winds. But on Denali, there are no Sherpa. So the people that you climb with, you have to carry everything. Set up your tents, set up your food, do everything. Yeah. So a lot of people summit Everest because they got Sherpa. They go and try and do Denali. They're not successful.
No.
Something to think about if you're going to go and do this.
Do all what you just talked about on Denali. So,
What's that?
whole skill set, setting up tents.
Oh yeah, you got to do everything. Oh yeah. And then you land on a glacier with 10 people from who knows where, roped together with a 65-pound pack and a 95-pound sled, and you're slogging up a glacier with people you don't even know. So if you fall into a crevasse, they have to save you. Whole different experience, for
Do you
sure.
think they've ever thought about adding like, the U.S. equivalent of Sherpas?
No Sherpa. Not on Denali. Nope.
Somebody could start a
Yeah,
business.
exactly.
Yep. So, anyway, thank you all.
Thank you. Let's go for another thing. It's just an incredible story, and it's fascinating because what you said in the beginning about, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Yeah.
We, and I think it's a lot because of movies. We're always like, yeah, the destination, the end goal. There's gonna be that moment. We're gonna be like, yeah. But there's no ending point in life. It just, well, until you die. But it just learned. And I'm so glad you're back and you have all your fingers and you were able to share that story of what a lesson to learn. And not just about, hey, don't take your gloves off, but how it applies to all of our lives and all of those crushing moments we all have in life where we think, well, hey, I'm a failure. But it's not about that. So thank you for sharing that.